Hello everyone, welcome back to e-learning week 3. So this week we're going to focus on constellations and galaxies. There are 5 basic groups constellations we'll get into. There's some that you can see all year long, and there's constellations that match the season. So we'll get to go through the most important ones, and I won't spend too much time on this since constellations don't really have a lot of scientific meaning, since it's just what we can see pattern-wise in the night sky. People have used it in the past and currently to help map things out in the sky, so it is useful for that. But in terms of like actual scientific properties, constellations don't really have a lot of meaning. So here's an example on this slide. This is the Big Dipper. It is part of a larger constellation called Ursa Minor, and this is one that you guys can see all year long. So again, constellation is just a pattern of stars in the sky, and this is man-made. So this is not something that nature has inspired. It's just man-made. Okay. Excuse me. So constellations were first named, the ones that we currently use, by Greek and Roman mythology, and there's a lot of story behind those. There are constellations for other cultures as well. So the Native Americans have their own set of constellations. So it's not just the ones that we're familiar with, but in some cases the stories are pretty similar. But just so you're aware, these patterns, just to show they are truly man-made, they are different throughout different civilizations. Sometimes the pattern looks pretty close to what the name represents. Sometimes it is totally off, which you guys are probably going to laugh at a few of these. So, and again, every season you're going to get a new group of constellations. Sometimes the seasons overlap, like right now we can see wintertime constellations as well as some springtime constellations, and that we always see the circumpolar constellations. If you live in the southern hemisphere, you get a different set of constellations. And southern hemisphere, you're mostly going to get really the best view of the Milky Way galaxy is going to be in the southern hemisphere. So we have better views of constellations. They have better views of the Milky Way galaxy. Now we can still see the Milky Way here in the northern hemisphere. It's just not as spectacular as you would see it in the south part of the Earth. So again, 5 basic groups. We have circumpolar, and these are the ones that are directly overhead us. You can see these all year long. They never go away. We have springtime, fall, winter, and summer. So one thing to note, if they're in opposite seasons, you never see them at the same time. So you'll never see spring and fall together at the same time, and you'll never see summer and winter together at the same time. Okay, so circumpolar constellations, they never set and revolve around a central point. So like the North Star, which is called Polaris, that is going to be the star that everything revolves around. So they never set in the night sky, they just kind of revolve around that one point. We have the first 2 circumpolar constellations, there's 5 altogether, Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. Ursa Minor is the Little Bear, Ursa Major is the Big Bear. So we have the Little Dipper and the Big Dipper in those. Polaris is at the tip of the handle of the Little Dipper, and then Ursa Major is going to circle Polaris, which is at the tip of the Little Dipper, every 24 hours. So here I have drawings of these. So here's the Big Bear and the Little Bear. We have the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. This is Polaris right here. So this is the tip of the handle. And if you ever want to find the North Star, so the Little Dipper is actually pretty faint. It's kind of hard to spot on its own at night. So what I like to do is I like to find the Big Dipper here. Okay, so you find the Big Dipper. That one's pretty easy to spot. It's pretty bright. You go towards the edge of the cup here. These 2 are your pointer stars, and they align up directly with the North Star, Polaris. So you find the Big Dipper, go to these edges here, these 2 stars, and then that points you to the North Star. And everything is going to rotate around this central point. Our next circumpolar constellation is Draco the Dragon, seen here. We also have Cassiopeia the Queen, And Cassiopeia is pretty easy to spot. You're going to find either a W or an M in the sky, just depending on which way it's ranged. If it's sideways, it could look like a 3 or an E. But Cassiopeia is fairly easy to spot in the night sky. So this is another one you can see all year long. Cepheus the king is going to be shaped like a house, and it's right next to the queen. So again, you have Polaris, your central point. Everything rotates around the central point, and you're going to have circumpolar constellations visible all year long. Here's just another picture of them and another map of these items in the night sky. Okay, let's get to our spring constellations. Since we are currently in spring, let's talk about what we can see. So we can currently see Gemini, which are going to be the twins. 2 stars to note here are Pollux and Castor. So you have, they kind of look like twins in this picture, but not so much here. So we have our 2 twins, and the heads of the twins are going to be Pollux and Castor. We have Leo the lion, and you're going to have the star to note here is Regulus, which is blue-white. And sometimes you can't actually see the differences in colors in these stars with your naked eye, especially the red ones. Those stand out pretty well. So with Leo the lion, to find this in the night sky, you're going to look for a backwards question mark or like a shepherd's hook here. So look for that backwards question mark, and you can see this. You can also see Leo pretty well in the summertime. Botes, so that's an umlaut there, so let's pronounce Botes. It's the herdsman. And what you're going to find in the herdsman is going to be Arcturus, which is an orange giant found here. It's fairly bright. We also have Virgo the Virgin. And the star here is Spica, which is a blue-white star. It's fairly bright as well. Cancer the Crab. And in Cancer, you're going to have the M44 Beehive star cluster. And star clusters, again, remember they're different. They are loose groupings of stars, much smaller than a constellation, which spans a bigger distance. And star clusters most likely arrive from the same nebula. Summer constellations, so we're getting into those. Hercules, you have the M13 star cluster seen here. And let's see, Lyra is next, the harp. Vega is going to be found in Lyra, and Vega is the brightest summertime star. So a very bright star in the summer. Scorpius is the scorpion, and it kind of looks like a little scorpion with its, assuming that's probably the tail and that's the head. Antares is a star of note here. We have Sagittarius, the archer. So that's one of the zodiac signs. So there's actually 13 zodiac constellations, which we're going to cover all those. Only 12 of those are used by astrology, but we already discussed astrology is not a real science, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, we have Cygnus the swan, and Deneb is the star here. Let's see, and I think Cygnus, I don't know, maybe it's a different one, never mind. Okay, Delphinius is the dolphin, and kind of looks like a little dolphin leaping out of the water. See that in the summer. Okay, Sagitta's the arrow, and it's really just like a stick. That's all it is. So it kind of looks like an arrow, I guess. Next, we have Aquila the eagle, and Altair is the star there. We have the Corona Borealis, the northern crown, and it looks like a crown, like a little horseshoe shape here. So that's the Corona Borealis. And Corona means crown. Borealis means north. So like the Aurora Borealis, Aurora means light, Borealis means north. So Corona Borealis means northern crown. Libra is going to be your scales. Another summertime constellation. Okay, Ophiuchus, that is the zodiac sign that people don't really know about. So there's the reason why they're called zodiac is that there's it's like an imaginary line on the star map, and these zodiac signs every month, whenever they were named at the time, they were named for the time of the month they're in. So since there's 12 months, there was 12 zodiac signs, and I think there's a story about how Ophiuchus got kicked out of this naming process somehow. Don't know what it is. But he is the serpent bearer, so you can see he has snakes around him right here. And if you guys remember, like a few years back, there was something in the news. People were panicking because they said, oh, well, zodiac signs got switched from everyone based on their birthdays because they're no longer in the same position of the sky as what they're named in. Well, it's been like that for a long time, so I don't know why people were freaking out. And it's not like it matters anyways because it's all fake science. But regardless, there is a set of constellations that you can see like high at the highest point in the sky every month, and those are the zodiac signs, the zodiac constellations. So I included Ophiuchus just so you guys could see what that one looked like. Okay, next is going to be our fall constellation. So we have Pegasus. Pegasus is the winged horse, and to find Pegasus, you're going to look for this great square here. So it's a giant square. Pegasus is connected to our next constellation, Andromeda. So it looks like the legs, but it's actually Andromeda. So this is going to share a star here. So we have the M31 Great Galaxy of Andromeda, and it's next to Cassiopeia if you want to find it. Our next fall constellation is Perseus the hero. We have Algol, which is a red demon star, because I think it's the eye of Medusa that he cut off, and that's what he's supposed to be holding is Medusa's head. But there is an eclipsing binary star, and that is called Algol. And you're going to look for this little fish hook here to find Perseus. Another fall constellation is Auriga, the charioteer. And again, this one kind of looks like a house, a 5-sided house. Capella is going to be a yellow star found here. It's fairly bright. Next fall constellation is Aries the ram. And above it is my favorite constellation, Triangulum the triangle. So it is literally a triangle for a constellation. And Aries is not exactly a very exciting constellation. It's like a stick with a little stick attached to it. So again, they don't always look like their names. Next, I have Pisces the fish, and it does look like fish sleeping out of water. So this is another zodiac constellation. Cetus the whale. It has Mira the variable star. Cetus, I guess it kind of looks like a whale. I think this is the head, and that's the tail. A very distorted looking whale, but we'll call it a whale. Aquarius is our next fall constellation. Aquarius is the water bearer. Capricorn is going to be the sea goat, another zodiac constellation. And now we're going to get into our wintertime constellations. So our winter constellations, we have Orion the hunter, and I really like Orion because it's extremely easy to spot in the night sky. So once you find Orion, you can actually know the position of it, and you can spot other things based on where Orion's located. So to look for Orion, and this is really probably the first constellation I was able to notice as a kid, you're looking for Orion's belt, which are going to be these 3 stars right here. So you look for Orion's belt, and from here you can see Betelgeuse, which is a red supergiant, and then Rigel, which is down here, which is a blue supergiant. You can actually notice in the sky on a clear night the color difference between these 2 supergiants. Betelgeuse does have a red color. And Betelgeuse, I believe, is the one that scientists are predicting will go supernova fairly soon. I don't know when, but it would be kind of cool to see a supernova. It also has the M42 Orion Nebula. So this is Orion, very easy wintertime constellation, and it is still visible in the night sky currently. Next is Taurus the Bull, another wintertime constellation, also still visible in the night sky. So this one has Aldebaran, which is a red star. It's called the Eye of the Bull. You can see the star very easily. And it also has Pleiades, which is going to be the nickname is the Seven Sisters. The story behind this is that, I'm going to go back one, Orion, so Orion is right next to Taurus, which is over in this area. Orion was chasing the seven sisters, so Zeus took pity on them, placed them in the night sky, but then in a cruel twist of fate, he also put Orion right next to them, so he was chasing them permanently. So it's kind of messed up, but that is part of the very shorthand explanation of that story. And Taurus also has the Crab Nebula, so pretty famous nebula. Canis Major is the big dog, so this is important because it contains Sirius, which you can still see at night currently. This is going to be the brightest star in our night sky, so Sirius. And I think it looks like a little doggy. So you have a head, body, and a tail. And then my next one is Canis Minor, the little dog. And it is seriously just a stick. It's two constellations. You have Procyon, which is like a greenish tint based off of the way it goes through the atmosphere. I think it's more like a yellowish star. But it is just a stick, is all it is. Lepus is the hare. It's another wintertime constellation. Columba is the dove. We have our next topic. So we finished constellations. Kind of went through those pretty fast. Next is galaxies. I didn't want to skip this because I do think galaxies are important. Okay, so galaxies are going to be big systems of stars in space. They revolve around a central point. Oops. We have three different shapes we'll get into, but our solar system is a spiral galaxy in a spiral galaxy called the Milky Way, and we're just a very small part of a much larger system. So, our Milky Way, again, we're spiral. From the top view, so from this view in the bottom left-hand corner, and then if you were to view us at the side view, kind of looks like a hot dog placed in a hamburger bun. So you're going to have a bulge in the center where most of the mass of the galaxy is located. And that's also where typically black holes are located, or the largest black holes in the galaxy will be in the center. Characteristics of the Milky Way. So again, if you look at the size, it's about 100,000 light years long. It's about 10,000 light years just through this bulge here in the center. So this is about 10,000 light years across. This is about 100,000 light years across. Huge distance. We have about estimated 400 billion stars in our Milky Way. Our solar system is going to be located 2/3 from the center in the Orion arm of the galaxy spirals. So it takes about 250 million years to make one revolution in a galaxy. So huge, huge amount of time just to take one full spin. First person to identify and classify galaxies was no other than Edwin Hubble in 1924, and that's what the Hubble telescope is named after. Okay, so classify galaxies, three major shapes. Spirals, which is what we're most familiar with. I have a central core, usually a black hole, curved spiral arms, and most galaxies will be this type, about 75%. We have elliptical galaxies, and they are elliptical because they have that distinct oval shape. No really clear arms here. Next will be irregular shape. So we have not a definite shape or form. They can be varied in style. So I don't know if I can move that or not. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Well, anyways, that one kind of looks like a parrot if you can look at it on the PDF version of the notes. So anyways, they all look kind of different. That's why they're called irregular. So to classify galaxies, we're going to have most start off as elliptical. And then here I have pictured large and small Magellanic Clouds. These are irregular galaxies, and these are fairly close to our galaxy. So with galaxies, they are about 160,000 light years away from us. So with the large and small Magellanic Clouds, these are the closest galaxies to our galaxy. But we cannot see these from our perspective because they are only viewed from the southern hemisphere, so we're not as familiar with them up here because we can't see them. Our closest spiral galaxy is Andromeda, which is 2.2 million light years away. Huge distance away. At some point, we will collide with Andromeda, and we will combine to form a very large galaxy. So the Milky Way and Andromeda are actually headed towards each other, and they will combine. And when that happens, even though you're having two galaxies combine, there will be probably very little, if any, items crashing into each other just because everything is so spaced out. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but even with all those stars, it's still predicted that they won't collide or be very few just because of how spaced out they are. Kind of neat to think about. Our galaxy is going to belong to a small cluster of about 17 to 20 galaxies called a local group. And again, we talked about galaxies rotating. They also revolve around each other in space, so that kind of plays into Andromeda and the Milky Way eventually colliding into each other. Our local group, which has several galaxies in it that revolve around each other, that's going to be about 110 million light years in diameter. Huge. And also, we're located in something called a local supercluster, which I think we talked about that in our last unit. Well, that does it for this week on notes. We should be finished with stars and galaxies. We actually were able to get through everything. I will be posting a PDF version of these notes, so you don't necessarily have to listen to this lecture. We will be doing some sort of test or quiz over all of this next week, so be on the lookout for that. Hope you guys have a great week, and again, if you have any questions, please let me know.